So right now, there's actually a computer-generated virus killer just sitting in a syringe over in a Cambridge lab.
Right, which sounds completely insane.
It totally does. I mean, it's literally waiting to neutralize a global pandemic that hasn't even happened yet. It's passing human trials as we speak. But then, meanwhile, on the exact same day, you've got roughly 22,000 sailors completely stranded in the Middle East.
Yes, stuck on the water.
Exactly. Because the physical supply chain that moves all our basic goods is just, well, it's fundamentally broken right now.
It's a massive disconnect, really. I mean, you look at it and we have these digital systems predicting the future of human biology, but our physical infrastructure is struggling to even manage the present.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are taking this massive stack of updates from the June 6th, 2026 morning briefing and, figuring out exactly how these extremes connect for you.
Which is quite the mission.
Yeah, we're unpacking how the world is rapidly rewiring itself, looking at everything from geopolitical blockades to digital uprisings and the kind of tech advancements that are going to fundamentally change the actual device you are listening to this on right now.
And we're doing all this against a wildly energetic cultural backdrop, too.
Oh, absolutely. Just to set the vibe for you,
Yeah.
I mean, the New York City energy is off the charts today. The Knicks are up 2-0 against the Spurs in the NBA Finals.
Riding that 13-game playoff win streak.
You know it. The whole city is still vibrating after Victor Wembanyama just barely missed that fourth-quarter buzzer beater in Game 2. And on top of that, the political board is just completely resetting. Mitch McConnell just announced his retirement.
Right, ending his run as the longest-serving Senate leader in U.S. history.
A massive shift.
It really closes a definitive chapter in American politics. When you look at his tenure impartially, his impact on the federal judiciary, and his mastery of legislative deal-making, it fundamentally reshaped the courts and the legislative process for a whole generation.
Yeah, the mechanisms of the Senate literally operated around his strategies for decades.
Exactly. Love him or hate him, the structural impact is undeniable.
It's a total reset.
Yeah.
And honestly, those massive structural shifts are exactly what we are seeing in the physical world right now. Because before we get to the AI breakthroughs and that sci-fi vaccine, we really have to look at the physical breakdown happening in the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, gridlock there.
Right. Because it isn't just some distant geopolitical news story. It is directly impacting the goods coming right into your neighborhood.
The sheer scale of the bottleneck is, well, it's hard to comprehend until you look at the mechanics of what is actually happening on the water.
So true. So, here are the facts on the ground for you. We're about 3 months into this crisis. U.S. forces recently struck Iranian coastal radar sites, specifically on Goruk and Qeshm Island, after Iran launched attack drones toward the strait.
And then in retaliation, Iran fired ballistic missiles toward U.S. positions in Kuwait and Bahrain. The reason this physical choke point matters to you, whether you live in London, Tokyo, or Chicago, it comes down to a really stubborn diplomatic stalemate.
What are the actual demands on the table right now?
Well, Iran wants access to billions in frozen oil revenues and sanctions waivers. The U.S. wants verifiable concessions regarding Iran's missile programs. Neither side is moving an inch, so the waterway is effectively closed.
And the numbers are just staggering. We're looking at 1,550 massive cargo vessels currently stranded. Wow. Yeah, 22,500 mariners just stuck out there. A waterway that usually sees roughly 100 massive ships transiting every single day. It's down to just a handful.
The UN Trade and Development Agency is calling this the worst energy supply disruption since the 1970s.
Which is wild.
And this is where it hits your daily life. Because the strait is a kink in the global supply chain, right? It's like putting a clamp on a hospital IV line.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, everything downstream starts gasping for resources. So to fix it, global logistics companies are leaning entirely on predictive supply chain algorithms.
They don't have a choice.
Right. They're forcing AI to calculate how to reroute millions of tons of oil, fertilizer, basic consumer goods, all the way around the Cape of Good Hope.
Which means those algorithms are having to calculate ocean currents, port capacities down in South Africa, exact fuel consumption rates, just to keep the global economy from completely flatlining.
Exactly.
And it trickles all the way down to, like, your local school district. If your kid's school ordered Chromebooks or lab supplies for a summer tech refresh, they are facing massive delays.
Because those ships are either sitting idle in the Gulf or taking the extremely long way around Africa.
Okay, let's unpack this. Is this essentially a global arterial blockage? And we're just relying on predictive logistics AI to act as the bypass surgery.
That is spot on. The physical arteries are clogged, so we are forcing our digital nervous system to calculate the bypass surgery in real time. But, while physical bottlenecks are choking the system, digital networks are bypassing traditional power structures entirely.
Right, which perfectly explains the absolute explosion of the Cockroach Janata Party over in India, the CJP.
The speed of this movement is basically a masterclass in modern digital mobilization.
It is wild. Fact check on this.
Mhm.
The CJP was founded literally 3 weeks ago, May 16th, by a 24-year-old political strategist named Abhijit Dipke.
And the catalyst for that.
Well, Chief Justice Surya Kant controversially referred to unemployed youth and government critics as, quote, parasites and cockroaches.
Which was a statement that provided the perfect visual mechanism for a grassroots movement.
Oh, they owned it immediately. Right now, thousands of young people wearing these cockroach masks are filling Jantar Mantar. That's New Delhi's famous protest strip.
But the physical protest is nothing compared to their digital footprint.
Not even close. They gained 20 million Instagram followers in 3 weeks. They've completely eclipsed the digital reach of both the ruling BJP and the Indian National Congress.
And the response from the state really highlights the exact tension of this era we're in. The Indian government is utilizing its IT Act and national security provisions to withhold the CJP's X account.
Yeah, and taking down their primary website.
Exactly, treating the sudden digital surge as a destabilizing force. Meanwhile, the protesters are just shifting across other platforms, demanding the resignation of the education minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, over recent exam irregularities.
Keeping the focus squarely on chronic youth unemployment in a country where, half the population is under 25.
Yeah, roughly half.
The CJP just proved that digital networks can overwhelm state content controls in 3 weeks. But what happens when that exact same digital overwhelm hits the financial markets?
Oh, you're talking about SpaceX.
Yes, because Wall Street is looking at SpaceX right now, and the infrastructure is literally sweating. SpaceX is launching a roadshow for what is projected to be the largest IPO in the history of the stock market.
They're targeting $135 a share, aiming to raise $75 billion at a $1.75 trillion valuation.
Which is nearly 3 times the size of Saudi Aramco's record-setting IPO.
It is, but honestly, the valuation is actually the least interesting part of this whole story.
Right, it's the allocation. Usually when a company goes public, retail investors, meaning you, me, everyday people using brokerage apps on our phones, might get like 5 to 10% of the available shares. SpaceX is tossing out the rule book and giving retail 25 to 30%.
Which fundamentally breaks the traditional mechanism of book building.
How so?
Well, when banks take a company public, they use digital platforms to gauge interest and allocate shares mostly to massive institutional funds. But right now, you have 125 analysts across 21 different banks trying to manage $150 billion in retail demand.
Insane. And ticker SPCX hits the NASDAQ on June 12th. But wait, think about what SpaceX is actually doing here. Giving retail 30% isn't just democratizing finance.
No, it's actively creating a massive financial mob.
Aren't these two stories actually the same thing, though? I mean, the CJP is testing the absolute limits of state content controls, while SpaceX is testing the limits of modern digital brokerages. Are our digital systems even built to handle these extreme stress tests?
Honestly, they are stretched to the absolute limit. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the digital infrastructure tested by SpaceX and the CJP is about to be supercharged.
By a new wave of localized AI.
Exactly. The underlying intelligence of these systems is shifting from distant server farms directly to the edge.
Which brings us to the absolute bombshells dropped at Microsoft Build 2026.
Yeah.
Microsoft essentially declared its independence from OpenAI.
A huge pivot for them.
Yeah. They launched 7 new proprietary MAI models built completely in-house. And their flagship, MAI Thinking 1, is just a monster. We're talking 35 billion parameters and a massive 256K context window.
And just to explain why that context window matters to you, 256K means you could feed the AI a 500-page textbook.
Or your entire year's worth of financial spreadsheets.
Right, and it can hold all of that in its active memory at once to answer your questions. It's currently matching Claude Opus 4.6 on serious coding benchmarks.
And Microsoft has already shoved their MAI code 1 Flash directly into GitHub Copilot. Their AI chief literally went on record saying they feel, quote, set free.
But software independence is really only half the equation here.
Yeah, because the hardware is finally catching up. At Computex 2026, NVIDIA just unveiled the RTX Spark Superchip.
This is where the shift to the edge becomes very real.
The specs are insane. 20 ARM CPU cores, a Blackwell GPU with over 6,100 CD cores, and 128 gigabytes of unified RAM.
The mechanism that really matters there is the unified RAM. Traditionally, the CPU and GPU had their own separate memory pools. By unifying 128 gigs, NVIDIA has created a chip that delivers 1 petaflop of AI performance.
Wait, 1 petaflop on a laptop?
Yes. Practically speaking, it means you can take a standard-looking laptop, throw it in your backpack, and run a 120 billion parameter AI model completely offline.
So you don't need a cloud connection. You don't need to send your private data to a massive server farm in California just so the AI can, think.
Exactly. All the thinking happens locally inside your backpack.
And while NVIDIA is giving you localized power, OpenAI is completely changing the mechanism of how AI remembers you. They just rolled out Dreaming v3.
Which is a fundamental reimagining of AI architecture. Up until now, if an AI remembered something about you, it essentially wrote it down in a static vector database.
Like a digital sticky note.
Right, like a sticky note. But Dreaming v3 tears up the sticky notes. It's a massive memory overhaul that runs continuous background syntheses, focusing on freshness, continuity, and relevance.
It auto-updates your life.
Yes. So instead of a static note that says, you are planning a trip to Singapore, once the date passes, the AI organically synthesizes that past intent with the present reality.
So next time you chat, it says, oh, you went to Singapore. How was it?
Exactly. And because OpenAI managed to drop the compute costs by 5 times, this synthesis process can just run quietly in the background, constantly updating its understanding of who you are.
Here's where it gets really interesting. With NVIDIA moving the mainframe into our backpacks and OpenAI's Dreaming v3 shifting from a static database to dynamic memory, is AI finally starting to perceive the passage of time like we do?
That's the million-dollar question. And as AI hardware and memory become intensely personal, society's really scrambling to figure out the rules of engagement. That's the exact friction point regulators are hitting right now.
Yeah, the regulatory whiplash this week is crazy.
The technology is just evolving faster than the legislative mechanisms can draft policy.
Just look at the UK. The Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, just ruled that Google must allow digital publishers to opt out of their AI overviews.
And the key mechanism here is that if a publisher opts out, Google cannot penalize their traditional search ranking. They have 9 months to comply.
It's a massive structural win for publishers who completely rely on click-through traffic to survive.
But while the UK is putting up guardrails, the framework in the United States is literally collapsing.
Yeah, Colorado just repealed the U.S.'s first comprehensive AI Act. The original law operated on a duty of care model.
Meaning tech developers had a proactive legal responsibility to prevent algorithmic discrimination.
Right, and they scrapped it just weeks before it was supposed to take effect on June 30th. It's being replaced in 2027 by Cat-I, which is just a disclosure-based model.
It strips away the proactive safety net and just requires companies to disclose that an AI was used. It highlights how successful industry lobbying has been in shifting the burden of responsibility away from the developers.
But nowhere is this tension over AI integration more volatile than in education.
Oh, absolutely.
An NPR Ipsos poll just dropped showing that 3 out of 4 K-12 teachers believe AI's impact is going to eclipse the internet.
Which is a huge statement.
And 60% of teachers are already using it.
Yeah.
But here's the catch. 54% say it is actively hurting their students' critical thinking, and 55% view it simply as a shortcut for kids to avoid doing the work.
Which is resulting in wildly contradictory policies across the board. You have Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, proposing a massive rollback.
The device is down, eyes up, hands-on plan.
Right. It demands total screen bans for pre-K through 2nd grade. She's pushing to ban all student-facing AI in elementary schools, ban social companion chatbots for anyone under 16, and institute a big tech tax to fund traditional educational resources.
But wait, how does that work in practice? If 60% of teachers are already using AI to brainstorm and plan their lessons, isn't Weingarten's demand to ban it for the kids totally hypocritical? I mean, it's like saying the teacher gets to use a spreadsheet, but we are banning calculators for the students.
Well, meanwhile, the New York City Department of Education is taking the exact opposite approach.
Right. They just released guidance embracing AI for teacher admin work, but specifically banning it for assigning student grades or collecting biometrics.
And to address your point about hypocrisy, it isn't necessarily hypocritical when you look at it impartially through a developmental psychology mechanism.
Okay, how so?
The argument is that an adult teacher has already formed the neurological pathways required for critical thought, right? So they can use AI as an accelerator. But if you give a generative AI to a second grader, you're introducing a technology that synthesizes information for them before they've developed the biological capability to do it themselves.
Wow, okay, that is a terrifying thought. With 60% of teachers already using AI and 40% of kids using it weekly, is the AFT's proposed ban like trying to ban calculators in the 90s? Or is it a necessary emergency brake for early childhood development?
This raises an important question. If we are rapidly integrating this highly capable tech into our schools, our supply chains, and our investment apps, how secure is the foundation?
Yeah, what happens when the foundation cracks?
The current vulnerability gap is severe.
It is. Cisco just reported its 7th zero-day exploit of 2026, and this is in their SD-WAN manager.
For context, an SD-WAN is essentially the secure digital nervous system that connects a corporate headquarters to all its remote workers.
And the exploit is CVE 2026-2020-45 with a severity score of 7.8.
And to explain what a 7.8 actually means, it grants root access to an authenticated local attacker.
Meaning?
If your company uses a VPN, a hacker doesn't just breach your corporate server, they could potentially ride that connection right down into your home router.
Oh, man. And because Google's Mandiant division found it being actively exploited in the wild with absolutely no patch available, companies are just completely exposed.
And the human cost of these exploits is brutal.
Very. DentaQuest, which is a dental benefits administrator owned by Sun Life, just had 2.6 million patient records leaked by the extortion group Shiny Hunters.
Which heavily impacts vulnerable populations.
Yeah, DentaQuest manages a massive amount of Medicaid plans, meaning a huge chunk of this stolen data, names, birthdays, IDs, belongs to kids.
And children's data is exceptionally valuable on the dark web because their credit histories are completely blank slates.
Perfect for long-term identity theft.
Exactly. And as we gear up for massive global events, the threat landscape just multiplies.
Which brings us to the upcoming 2026 FIFA World Cup. It kicks off June 11th across the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. And the FBI is warning of a massive wave of fraud.
Group IB researchers just found 4,300 fake FIFA domains.
There's this Chinese-speaking threat group called Ghost Stadium running 300 active phishing sites.
They're cloning legitimate login portals.
Yeah, lacing fake streaming links with malware and even setting up bogus betting platforms specifically to steal the passport scans of fans trying to verify their accounts.
They are exploiting the sheer volume of digital traffic. You know, the incentives right now are heavily skewed toward deploying new digital infrastructure as fast as possible, often leaving basic security as a total afterthought.
Are we essentially building a high-speed bullet train with this new AI and digital infrastructure, but completely forgetting to install the brakes? We've talked about unpatchable 0 days, massive data breaches, and a paralyzed global supply chain.
Right.
So what does this all mean? The incredible silver lining here is that the exact same computational power accelerating all these risks is also quietly solving some of our oldest, most terrifying biological vulnerabilities.
Which brings us back to the breakthrough at the University of Cambridge and their spin-out, Diosynvax.
Yes, they just successfully passed the first human clinical trials for a universal coronavirus vaccine designed entirely by a computer. 39 human volunteers took it, and it works.
The mechanism behind this is brilliant. Traditional vaccines usually target a specific known virus, right? But the researchers at Cambridge used machine learning algorithms to analyze global genetic databases, scanning the entire viral family.
The AI literally looked at SARS-CoV-2, the original SARS-CoV-1, and even related bat coronaviruses that haven't made the jump to humans yet.
It found the structural key they all share and designed a synthetic superantigen that neutralizes all of them.
It is quite literally anticipating the next pandemic and preventing it before the virus ever mutates.
Plus, it's delivered via a needle-free microfluidic jet.
Just a quick puff of air into your skin. I want you to really think about this. While the news is full of unpatchable 0 days, political unrest, and supply chain gridlock, the very same computational power is out there designing super antigens to prevent the next pandemic before it starts.
It's the ultimate proof of concept. But imagine if we took the dreaming V3 AI memory architecture, which constantly synthesizes and contextualizes the past, and combined it with the predictive logistics AI currently trying to save the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, wow.
Could we eventually build global systems that actually remember historical gridlocks and preemptively reroute our supply chains, our digital brokerages, and maybe even our societal tensions before they ever reach a breaking point?
A system that learns from its own friction. That is something to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay well informed, and we will catch you next time.